Trey Arnold, the political director for the Dallas County Democratic Party. And we nabbed him after he was a paid staff member for President Barack Obama in both his 2008 and 2012 campaigns. We're very pleased to have you all here, and I give you Trey Arnold.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everyone, welcome to the Dallas County Democratic Party Town Hall. This is definitely going to be one of the best ones. We have two distinguished guests on here. But before I introduce those guests, none of this would be possible without our sponsors. I'm just going to give a shout out to our sponsors. We first have Tillotson Law. We have the Honorable Curl and Dan Donovan. We also have the Honorable Terry Barker. We have Dr. Catalina Garcia, Hamilton and Wingo LLP, the Honorable Marcy Helfand and Robert Book, as well as Scott Perez LLP. So we definitely want to give a special thanks to our sponsors here today. And without further ado, I would just like to introduce our guests that we have on here today. First, I want to start with Woot Lervisit. He is one of our young, bright attorneys. He definitely has some background in business as well. He has helped out on the Lulu Cycling campaign as well as the Bloomberg campaign. He is one of our, like I said, upcoming people to watch. So, like I said, I introduced to you Woot Lervisit. Our second guest, like I said, he really needs no introduction. He was born and raised in rural East Texas. Kendall Scudder is one of the best political operatives that I have personally ever met and that we have here in Dallas. So we're definitely happy to have him, here in Dallas County. He also serves on the State Democratic Executive Committee. And he also has probably one of the best cowboy boot collections I have ever seen. So I want to introduce to you Kendall Scudder.
Thanks, Trey. We appreciate that. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump on in there. First of all, I definitely want to commend Judge Clay Jenkins and Bill DeBazio for the job that they have done as far as just with this pandemic of informing everyone of kind of what's going on and different steps that we need to take. They have definitely done a better job than our Attorney General as well as Governor, I might say. So I definitely want to give a shout out to them. So I just wanted to start out, Kendall, talk to us about the recent complaint filed against Ken Paxton and just kind of tell us what's going on with that.
Sure. And I'm sure Woot can add on to it once I've given the big picture here. Basically on April 15th, Judge Sulak out of Austin made a ruling that said that any Texan who is susceptible to contracting COVID-19 was eligible under the disability statute to request a ballot by mail. And at that point, that was the law. And the order was appealed, it was stayed. And then on May 1st, because he did not like the ruling, Attorney General Ken Paxton chose to send a letter to 254 elections officials around the state of Texas, lying to them about what the law is in this state. The Attorney General does not get to make the law. They are a chief law enforcement official. And the second that he wrote a letter to 254 elections officials, knowingly misleading and lying to them about what the law was to request a ballot by mail, he committed 254 acts of federal election fraud, in our opinion. You cannot, in Texas election code, lie to and mislead elections officials. It doesn't matter how you feel about vote by mail. The law is the law. And he does not have the right to do that. So my friend Woot and I on Monday delivered a complaint to the district attorney's office. According to the Texas election code, it requires 2 individuals to be able to file that complaint within the jurisdiction that it is filed. And so we filed a complaint with District Attorney Cruzo on 254 counts of federal election fraud against Ken Paxton, and it triggered an automatic investigation against the Attorney General.
Okay. And And Woot, how do you go into play with everything that's been going on as well?
So I guess, yeah, for me, it started with the original letter on April 15th when he sent that out. My immediate reaction was to apply to vote by mail. And I started asking other people if they were going to do the same thing. But people weren't doing it. And they said they weren't doing it because of the Attorney General's letter. And I'm just like, well, the letter is wrong. I mean, the law is the law. He can't do anything about that. But, you know, his letter was out there and it was pretty much, you know, scaring people from applying to vote by mail, which is their, you know, their right. So I guess that weekend I just, you know, wrote a letter to the editor in the Dallas Morning News where I said, hey, I'm voting by mail. And I just put it out there, see if, you know, the Attorney General was going to sue me or anything like that. Nothing happened. And then I guess on May 1st, he issued that letter to the elections official. I was like, you know, that's just wrong. And I just felt I had to do something about it. And like, you know, talked to Kendall and we filed the complaint.
Yeah, you know, and it just kind of amazes me that, you know, they could make this big ruckus and just issues as far as just with that, but yet still, you know, they can, you know, be behind somebody like Shelley Luther and support her 100%. So I'm just like, you know, just the hypocrisy. And it's, you know, it's just almost like they're saying business over humanity right now, you know, because it's common sense that voting by mail would be the most logical thing, you know, for us to kind of go through right now. But
well, here's why you shouldn't be surprised by it. You shouldn't be surprised by it because, you know, in Texas, we like to do things different. Well, the way we did things different this time is we elected an attorney general with a mugshot and a rap sheet. He has a rap sheet stretching all the way from petty larceny to federal elections fraud. So don't be surprised when he has complete disregard for the rule of law in this state. There are two different types of people that are opposed to mail-in ballots. Number one, the type of person that doesn't understand the security precautions that are taken with mail-in ballots. So understandably, they're a little frustrated by it. They probably should do a little more research to determine how secure it actually is to vote by mail and how there are provisions in place to protect that. The second type of person that is opposed to vote by mail are people that don't want you to vote and they want to block folks from voting because they will vote against their preference. And Ken Paxton falls into this category. He knows what the law is. He's completely aware that people should be able to vote by mail. People have voted by mail in this state for decades. How do you think active service members vote, or seniors, or people with disabilities who are stuck in their homes and they aren't able to get out? All we're doing is trying to expand that so that in the time of a national pandemic, people should be able to vote safely.
Yeah, and I want to shoot a question to you. We just got a question in. Do you think that legislature should pass a law prohibiting indicted people like Ken Paxton from being able to serve as Attorney General?
I'll let you take that one, Woot.
I guess I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I expect, you know, the citizens of Texas to have better judgment, and perhaps, you know, something could be included perhaps in the Texas Constitution that, you know, someone in it who's indicted shouldn't be like in a high office. But he just seems unqualified to me, just in general. And to me, like, you know, whether there's a law or not, I mean, he just shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I mean, Ken Paxton's a complete joke. And let's talk about his indictment for a second, because he's been sitting in a waiting trial for 5 years. Well, it's my understanding that committing another offense is a violation of his bond. So perhaps when DA Crusoe finally issues his opinion that I'm confident will agree with both myself and Woot, then we will have another offense committed by the Attorney General, and maybe he should be awaiting his trial in a jail cell. Because if he can continue to break the law in the way that he has, he shouldn't be someone that's out roaming free, that's just waiting to find the next law that he can violate.
All right. Definitely agree with that. If you're just tuning in, we have Kendall Scudder as well as Woot Lervisit. We're just kind of talking about everything that's going on, and especially with the recent complaint filed against Ken Paxton, and just basically how we have two people that are governor and attorney general that basically are Trump's pawns, if needless to say, if I can say that. But so we're just trying to just kind of see what's going on as far as just what would you say the next step is as far as just after the complaint is filed? What is the next step?
To me, right now, we're waiting for the district attorney's office just to investigate and do what they do. I mean, to me, like I got like the most respect for DA Caruso, and I trust that he's going to do the right thing. And whether like to me, like it's obvious that Ken Paxton committed a crime, but you got to present it to a grand jury and eventually a jury, and the DA's got to make a decision whether he thinks he can get a conviction.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There was a step that has actually taken since we filed this. Yesterday, there was a ruling by an appeals court here in the state that upheld the original ruling by Judge Sulak on the 15th. So basically, a court said, yeah, what Judge Sulak said was certainly the law. And it just, in my mind, reinforces the fact that the letter that Ken Paxton sent on May 1st was an absolute violation of the law when he intentionally lied to and misled elections officials in every county across this state in order to deny millions of Texans access to a ballot.
And speaking of the ballot, I had another question come in. Young lady asked, so should we go ahead and request a mail-in ballot, or should we just wait until Texas Supreme Court rules in 2 weeks?
I think you go ahead and request one right now. Just apply, send an application into the Dallas County Elections Office. And if the Texas Supreme Court says something different in 2 weeks, and you don't feel comfortable voting by mail, just take that ballot into the polling place and just vote regularly. To me, that's what a person should do right now. Just go ahead and apply, get the ballot. If Tony Pittman Pools sends it out to you, and if you don't feel comfortable, signing off on that mail-in ballot, just go to the polls.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that we have a court that has said that this is what is legally allowed. We have an elections official who says that she is not going to come to your house and verify that your disability you proclaim on your mail-in ballot is up to snuff for what she feels it should be. She acknowledges what the law is. She was actually on a town hall a couple of weeks ago with Dallas County Democratic Party where she said that. So you should certainly apply for your mail-in ballot if you feel that going to the polls in July is unsafe for you. Period. It's legal, regardless of what Ken Paxton lies and says.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. And like I said, if you're just tuning in, we have attorney Woot Lervisit and as well as Kendall Scudder. I would like to also just give a shout out to the sponsors. Like I said, without the sponsors, this town hall wouldn't be feasible. We have Tillotson Law. We have the Honorable Carol and Diane Donovan. We have the Honorable Terry Barker. We have Dr. Catalina Garcia. We have Hamilton Wingo LLP. We also have the Honorable Marcy Helfand and Robert Book, as well as Scott Perez LLP. Okay, so we had another question come in. So if we are encouraging folks to apply for the mail-in ballot, we need to educate everyone that they decide to vote in person. They must take their mail-in ballot, correct?
Yes, I mean, that's what we should be advising people. I was actually an election judge last November here in Dallas County, and that just makes the process much easier when you bring in your mail-in ballot to the polls. Otherwise, you have to go through these provisional ballots, and it's just, more difficult for everyone.
Okay.
I think I would also note that in addition to applying as disabled, you should pay attention to a box, I believe it's box 6A, that says that you could automatically have your ballot sent to you. If you choose to vote by mail in November as well, this would automatically have your ballot sent to you then as well, so you wouldn't have to reapply for a mail-in ballot. I like that simply because I think it highlights what's so great about voting by mail. Imagine a world where anytime that there's a vote for utility districts, school board, city council, you don't have to worry about whether or not you missed that alert. Instead, you just automatically would have a ballot put into your mailbox. You take your ballot in your house, you do your research, and then you've in the comfort of your home, cast your ballot and stick it in the mail. I mean, that's how it should operate. There are 3 states that operate solely on that right now. And I don't understand why Texas shouldn't expand that effort simply now because we're in a pandemic.
I definitely agree. And for those who need the link to apply, and we're also going to put this on our Facebook page, it's www.sos.texas.gov/election/voter/REQ B as in boy, M as in man, .SHTML. Like I said, we'll have it on our Facebook page. So if you need that link, it'll definitely be available to you. We also have another question to come in. Is the violation by Paxton a city, county, or state law, criminal code, or civil violation?
So it's a state offense. It's offense under the Texas Elections Code. I guess I can actually share the complaint Kendall and I turned in on Monday, and I'll put the file up on the chat. But it's a state code, but it's a criminal offense. So I hope that it's a state criminal offense. Yes.
Okay. Also had another great question just come in. We also need to consider the risks and health of our poll workers. Why put them at risk when we lawfully can't hold this election by mail? Thank you, Wanda, for that comment. And that was, I definitely agree with that. So just like I said, just kind of moving forward, do we just need to just go ahead and recommend that everybody just go ahead and at least apply for a vote by mail?
Yes, definitely apply. And then, what happens in the next, 2 weeks, month, so forth, then, different course of action can be taken, but you can definitely apply right now. And I guess if something else another action were to be taken, I guess Ken Paxton, the Attorney General's office, would on the other day, I think yesterday, petitioned the Supreme Court of Texas just to, butt themselves into this argument and to make a ruling. And I guess in that petition, he actually referenced Kendall and I as 2 individuals who charged him with a felony crime. But in it, he finally addressed the issue of this eligibility based on physical condition. In his defense his argument was that COVID-19 is just like the flu, and which is completely absurd. We saw Trump say that in February, and now I guess Ken Paxton is bringing that argument back, so people won't be able to vote by mail. And I guess in my opinion, since this is at the Texas Supreme Court, they might have to issue a ruling or an opinion. One thing people could do perhaps is to encourage our elected officials here in Dallas and Dallas County to perhaps file an amicus brief saying that, no, COVID-19 is definitely not like the flu. And they have all the information. I know Mayor Johnson sends out an email every night telling what the conditions of the hospitals are. Judge Jenkins and Dr. Wong, they have all the information. And I feel like perhaps, Ken Paxton might be, throwing out all this bull, having something from our elected officials who represent us and our safety say something the Supreme Court might have an effect.
And I'll add to that, Woot. You know, in the United States, we have always had our scheduled elections, even in the middle of the Civil War. And so the idea that we're even people like Jared Kushner are even floating the idea of postponing the election when it could just safely be conducted via mail is ludicrous. It's ludicrous. And let's look at it for what it is. It's a bunch of folks that understand that when more Texans have access to a ballot, they are going to lose because they do not fight in the best interest of ordinary Texans like us. So, you know, take it at face value for what it actually is. To me, in order for us to make sure that we are safe and casting our ballots, you should apply to vote by mail, get that ballot. And if you end up wanting to vote in person, bring that ballot in with you to vote. But you should be able to make that decision for yourself. If you feel uncomfortable with that, you strap that mask on and you know, gallop your happy ass down to the polls and vote. But, you know, you shouldn't have to do that is my point. You shouldn't have to take your life into your own hands to go and cast a ballot in the United States of America. But that's what Ken Paxton wants you to do.
Okay, I have more so two questions that came in. Someone said that they are afraid if the Supreme Court overturns and that would mess up her right to vote. How do you feel about that?
It definitely does mess with our right to vote. But I guess how the law is set up is that the Supreme Court, it's their decision. But interestingly, 4 of them are up for election this year. So, I mean, if we want to, if the county, like the county leaders and our city leaders on our behalf want to write a brief to the Supreme Court with all the science behind it, and the judges decide, oh, we don't want to listen to the science. I mean, we have an option come November to do something about it.
And there are no magic tea leaves or crystal ball. I mean, if we've learned anything since 2016, who the hell knows what those guys are going to do? You know, all that we can do is abide by what the law is and understand that whenever that ruling comes, if it is not in our favor, there's surely going to be a path forward for how we make sure that you're able to get your ballot. You just need to hold onto your ballot if you get it in the mail, and make sure you don't lose it. Either cast it or take it into the polls with you when it's time to vote.
I agree. I definitely agree. Like I said, if you're just tuning in, we have Attorney Woot, Lervisit, and as well as Kendall Scudder. We got some great political and legal minds, just kind of talking about the whole vote by mail process, as well as the recent complaint filed against our Attorney General, Ken Paxton. We had a question to come in. What about absentee voting? My college nephew votes absentee, and it has worked out really well. So if you are out of the country on election day, wouldn't that apply?
Yes. Yes, definitely. That definitely applies.
I mean, your voting by mail is just a form of absentee voting, right? So I don't think that there is any dispute right now on people that are not living in the country or not living in the county having it. Right now, the dispute is simply over the definition of the word disabled. That seems to be what the argument is about right now. But regardless of how you feel that definition should be, Ken Paxton does not get to decide how to define that. The courts get to decide that. One decided on April 15th and one yesterday upheld that ruling. So it has been decided that if you are susceptible to contracting COVID-19, you are eligible to apply to vote by mail. Send in your application to vote by mail, period.
Yes, and that includes all counties. You know, this is just not condensed to Dallas County, Tarrant County, all the other counties that are out there. You know, please take, full advantage and be aware, that this is what we need to do, especially in times like these. So just kind of be aware and just kind of make sure, that you definitely do it, because, we need every vote, to come in as far as with the runoff and as well as in November, whenever, it happens in November, we definitely just needs to make sure there is a change of regime. And the only way that that can happen is if we vote in droves. That's the only way that things are going to change. Okay, I have another comment come in. I am willing to speak about illegal voting if you like. We have someone, and I will. I'll get in contact with her. Okay, so also I guess moving forward, so if you had any recommendations on people who of course, this definitely is a form of voter suppression. So just to fight this whole argument about voter suppression, what would you say to someone who doesn't want to vote by mail just because of, all the confusion and everything that's going on? What would your spiel be to them as far as just why they should do it anyway?
Double mask up. That's my advice to you. If you don't want to vote by mail, you better put on 2 masks. We need you to survive to November, that's for sure. And we'd like for you to survive even longer than that.
Yeah, I guess, in this whole thing, I've, talked to quite a few people who said, they're going to go there even if it means dying, which is like fantastic. I love the passion for democracy and anything. I just wish the attorney general and the judges just made it clear you don't need to do that. But I'm not going to stop anyone from doing that. I would highly recommend they vote by mail, but if they want to go to the polls, that's awesome.
Yeah, the important key is get out there to vote. Again, like I said, if you're just tuning in, we have Woot, Lervisit, and also Kendall, Scudder, just talking about what's going on as far as just the recent complaint filed against the Attorney General Ken Paxton, as well as the importance of voting by mail. Definitely don't need to take any of this for granted. Everyone vote counts, so don't think, well, I'm not going to vote, so it's not going to matter. No, everyone vote counts. Also, this town hall would not be possible without our sponsors. Want to definitely give a shout out to Tillotson Law, the Honorable Carol and Dan Donovan, the Honorable Terry Barker, Dr. Catalina Garcia, Hamilton Wingo LLP, the Honorable Marcy Helfand and Robert Book, as well as Scott Perez LLP. All right, we had another question to come in, and this is actually a really good question. How long do we think it will take for Crusoe to investigate?
I honestly don't know. I don't have a background in criminal law or what goes on at the criminal courthouse here, and especially during this pandemic. I don't know if there's a sitting grand jury right now. We went there the other day, and they weren't really letting people in. So I really can't answer that. I dropped a voicemail off to the office there to see if they could share any information, and I'm waiting to hear back. And when I do, I'll be happy to share it with the county party.
In actuality, there's not that much to investigate. I mean, I could see that you have to define whether or not he intentionally lied and misled, but that's really answered for itself, because the letter on the first was stating his awareness of the ruling in April and inherently contradicting it. I mean, that was just inherent. So there's really shouldn't be a lot of investigation in place. This should highlight why it's so important to have a great DA in place, and I'm confident that Crusoe is going to do the right thing here. It would have sucked to have lived in a county where I didn't feel confident in my DA doing the right thing here. And I think that the reason that Paxton is so worried about what's going to happen and why he, keeps rampaging against Woot and myself is because he knows that DA Cruzo will do the right thing too. So, it's a waiting game. We need to sit here and wait for it. But while we're waiting, we're not going to twiddle our thumbs. We need to make sure that people know how to get access to a ballot. Woot and I are going to fight and continue that fight throughout this investigation to do that. We also, in my opinion, need to be fighting to make sure people understand that this madness would end if they would just start voting Democrat up and down their ballot. And this year, they also tried to suppress people's. Sorry, I got a loud cat over here. I forgot where I was going with that. Why did you do that, cat? Oh, what I was saying was that they also institute a new rule this year that would that eliminates our straight ticket voting in Texas. And so in places like Dallas, you're going to have longer lines as it is, let alone people having to socially distance while they're voting. And so, this vote by mail is the easy solution for all of those problems. It is the law right now, and Kim Paxton will hopefully be held accountable by DA Cruzo.
Okay, we actually just got a few more questions in while you guys were answering that question. This is actually directed to Kendall. Kendall, even when we abide by the law Governor Abbott sets in place, i.e. businesses cannot open for business, then Dallas County executes his law mandate, Abbott flip-flops. Then how can we execute and follow the rules when the target keeps moving and changing? Paxton is trying to move the needle with the mail-in ballot only to suppress the vote.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very fair concern. The reality is we're dealing with a Republican Party that does not stand for anything. They blindly follow personalities instead of having any honest motivations or convictions. And so you'll have people like Greg Abbott put out an order that is intended to keep people safe. And then as soon as Donald Trump or his base starts to talk about it, he'll completely turn around and do a 180. And so, yeah, it's real frustrating when you have a bunch of people running your government that stand for nothing except for what will make Donald Trump happy. And I mean, it's dangerous. It's dangerous in a democracy to have a government that's operating that way. So I share in that concern, but I find a little bit of solace in knowing that we have such competent, qualified individuals running our county and our city, such as Mayor Eric Johnson and County Judge Clay Jenkins and our Commissioner's Court, Teresa Daniel, Albert Garcia. Those folks are fighting really hard to make sure that they're keeping people safe. You've just got to listen to the people we can trust and follow their guidance.
Definitely agree. We have a precinct chair chime in and had a question. Their question is, what should we be doing what should we be advising the registered voters right now in our area? Should they be requesting a mail ballot? Is there a link we can send to our registered voters? I guess I can chime in on that. Yes, there is a link. Like I said, we're definitely going to have it on our Facebook page. It's the Secretary of State's www.sos.texas.gov/elections/voters. We'll have the complete link on our Facebook page, as well as we'll make sure that we put that on the website as well. So like I said, we need everyone to make sure that you go and get that information as well. So we'll definitely have that information. Let's see. We have a few more questions. Someone stated that charging Paxton is going to be very expensive and a difficult proposition, and he won't take it lightly. How do you guys feel about that?
Accurate.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's just great. It's great for us in Dallas County that we have a great DA who's gonna do the right thing. And I don't know what the right thing is, honestly, but I believe he's going to do the right thing.
All right, Kendall, I had, and this is actually a comment / request come in. It says, Kendall, to make the legislature fair, we need to elect more fair-minded officials. Will you consider running for Senate again?
For those who aren't aware, I did run for the Texas Senate in 2018 in District 2 against Senator Hall. To answer that question, I would always consider it. I think every citizen should consider running for office as a means of serving their community. What I won't do is run for office just for the sake of running for office, because I don't think that that's what folks should do. If I'm ever in a place where it makes sense and I feel that there's something that I can serve to my community, then I'll do it. But I mean, to give examples, like the city council district that I lived in this year went up for election, but there were 4 women that were running for that seat, and women are disproportionately underrepresented in our city government. So why would I run for that seat? It doesn't make sense. We need to make sure we're expanding representation for people who don't have it. And I am a mediocre white dude. So I will yield to those who are better representative of their community than I am. But if I'm ever in a position where I feel that I have something to give to the community and it makes sense, yeah, I'd love to do it again. It was the honor of my life being nominated by the Democratic Party in that district. And I appreciate all 112,000 people that voted for me. In Dallas County, when I ran, I actually got about 69% of the vote. So if these weren't gerrymandered, I probably would be a senator for Dallas County, but all of those rural East Texas counties had something to say about it. So.
And someone had actually just sent in a message, said, mediocre, no way, you're far from that.
Thanks.
With this, everything that's going on, is there any language on the ballot in an envelope received in response to an application for the mail-in ballot required more details about the nature of a disability?
No, there's not. It is just a blank, like a box that you check. This is disability. So that's all you have to do. You don't have to write COVID-19 or anything like that. You just check disability and just move on and sign your name. And I guess one thing that Kendall mentioned earlier, there's another box where you can sign up for the entire year. I forget the wording on it, but you can check that as well.
Okay, because I think some people, just had the question. They didn't know how broad the definition of disability was, so, that's why they sent in that question. I definitely get it, because we've had a couple of questions come in kind of correlating to that same question.
What was the question?
No, I just said, we've had a couple of questions come in that kind of correlates to that same thing, that disability, how broad is disability? How broad, is it or whatever? So it's just basically, you just check disability, no matter if it's just COVID-19 or whatever it is, you just check disability.
Well, I guess right now, I mean, that would be the reason, is the COVID-19 creates the disability. I don't think it's, infinitely broad. There definitely are limits. Like, for example, the seasonal flu, I don't think that's, to me, is probably not a disability, but here we are, in lockdown, things are being issued from the state, from the county and everything. So I mean, and the judge said so. He said it's the disability, COVID-19 was, so that definitely falls into the category.
And actually, she corrected me, and I apologize. The question relates not to the application, but to what is sent back to the voter to complete and return to Dallas County elections. Can you kind of explain?
So I guess when the elections office gets it, they just make sure that everything's filled out correctly, but they don't have the ability to find out if the person is disabled or not. That's what you're saying when you sign it, that on the applications that is like, yes, I have the disability. And I guess someone could go investigate later on and finds out if you don't. And that would be a crime if you don't. But right now, according to the judge, everyone does have a disability during COVID-19.
I mean, I would add to that. I don't know how enforceable it would be if Ken Paxton got some wild hair and wanted to go and investigate all the disability claims. I mean, like, what are they going to do? Like, send people from the AG's office to knock on your door with a doctor to have you declare? I mean, like, it's just not feasible for him to conduct some type of investigation either way, right? It's a lot like, you know, I used to be in multifamily housing management. And when people would come to us and they would express that they need an accommodation, you say, okay, great, we're happy to accommodate that. You know why we're happy to accommodate that? Because you're a human being and you're requesting it. And so we're going to do what we can for you, right? Because the only time you should be looking in your neighbor's window is to make sure that they have enough. And so it's the same premise. You know, if you feel that you are unable to go and cast your ballot due to this, then you are legally required or legally able to check off that this is a disability and request your ballot.
I definitely agree. Definitely want to thank our guests, Woot Lervisit, as well as Kendall Scudder, definitely for their insight and intellect of everything that's been going on with the complaint filed and just everything, all things vote by mail. You know, definitely want to thank you for coming. We also, again, want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Tillerson Law, the Honorable Carol and Dan Donovan, Honorable Terry Barker, Dr. Catalina Garcia, as well as Hamilton Wingo LLP, the Honorable Marcy Helfand and Robert Book, as well as Scott Perez LLP. Thank you so much again, like I said, to our guests that come and, you know, like I said, just kind of give us all the information, you know, if they know about the vote by mail and just everything that's going on. We'd like to thank Chairwoman Carol Donovan for allowing us the opportunity to have these town halls. We definitely want to thank everyone for that. You know, then definitely stay tuned. We have some more. We have some big guests coming in weeks to come. So we want to thank you. And like I said, thank you guys again. And we will definitely see you next Friday.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having us, y'all. We appreciate it.